All right. Afternoon, folks. My name is Phil Gallagher. I run ThrabenU University, a site for legacy, death, and taxes. I need to figure out what I'm doing for GP Atlanta. So the first portion of this stream is going to be me looking at some deck lists and figuring out what I want to do. And once I've figured that out, we're going to just take a look at how we perform in a league. So I've pulled up like 6 or 8 D&T deck lists, and I'm just going to like look over them, give you my thoughts on them, and see how we're doing. I think all of these are from within the last 2 weeks. This was the 13th place deck list from the MCQ, which is a relatively good finish. There's a Spicy Restoration Angel here, which I don't think is all that good. The format's gotten kind of fast with a whole lot of Merit Lodge, so I don't know that I want to be playing any 4-drops outside of the one of Palace Jailer. This one is running Mother of Runes, not Giver of Runes, and there's a light splash that really doesn't work out math-wise in terms of mana. I don't like that as a starting point. Alright, let's take a look at the next one. This was also from the MCQ, which was also running the Restoration Angel. Still don't like it, even though I've seen it twice here. Tomic, I do think, is something that I might end up playing some number of copies of. It's just a very good card when there's a lot of depths running around. It's a 2-mana threat that can trade with a Delver. It's not vulnerable to Renin 6. I can definitely see this being good. Kind of hit and miss on a lot of these sideboard cards, but like Tomic is something I'm going to keep in mind. I'm contemplating putting Caracas in the board for Lage decks. When playing D&T, like running extra copies of it, or when playing something else. Alright, so this is from a small 23-player event, so anything we see here we'll take with a grain of salt. There's a lot of random one-ups. Howled Spirit Keeper, Mirror Crusader, Brimaz, Cleric, Avenger, Tomic. This seems like play a little bit of everything, D&T. Yeah. In Miracles, I can see Caracas as a main deck card if you're not playing back to basics. I think that's quite good over one of your planes. Assuming the rest of your math works out with the correct number of fetchable sources. It's kind of a medium power level sideboard card. Like, it's something I'd much rather put in the main deck if I was going to play it in Miracles, but like I can see where you're coming from. And again, we see kind of the sketchy splash for a black. What is this? With Convoke, a 4-mana enchantment, when it enters the battlefield, exile target non-land permanent an opponent controls until it leaves the battlefield. Wow, that's an interesting piece of tech. I don't think that's necessarily consistent. Again, I do like the Tomic that's here, but I don't like this as a starting point either. Okay, if you are playing back to basics, that makes it harder. Alright, this is from a mid-sized event. This looks more reasonable. We have a decent number of flex slots that I like there's Tomic here, there's Crusader here. I'll probably play 24 lands rather than 23. I like the Sword of Truth and Justice that's in the board. I'm not 100% sure whether it's the right time for Truth and Justice, but I love the card. I'm going to keep that list open. I like that list. So this is a good size event. This was the classic. This list looks sharp. This list I actually really like. Hey, Dr. Bill, welcome. So I believe this is this user goes by the handle Coco Lopez on MTGO, or maybe it's Discord or both. But I really like what this is looking like. Like this has the 24 lands I want. It has 2 Flickerwisps, 2 Tomics. It's trimmed a Mother of Runes down to 3, which is something I'm often known for doing. Not 100% sure about the Brightling, but I'd be willing to test it out. As far as the deck list that I've seen so far, this is the one that I like the best. Oh man, your first GP experience is something special. Especially if you make the day 2 and you get to like slog through all of those rounds. It is something. All right, let's look at this list. Mid-sized event. I like the Tomix. I think 5 of these is probably too many. I think 22 lands is one too few. I think the Mangara is probably not optimal. And I really don't like the sideboard. Celestial Purge, though, I can respect that as a sideboard choice. Should maybe remember that that card exists. Because Celestial Purge is going to hit a lot of things that are annoying right now. Renin 6, Merit Lodge, Liliana's, Plague Engineers. I'm gonna keep that in mind as a sideboard choice. That's something I haven't seen in a ton of lists. That is the second list I've seen with Sword of War and Peace, though. So that's interesting. Are you actually skilled with Burn? Because if you're not skilled with Burn, I don't recommend that. If you know what you're doing, and you're considering Miracles versus Burn, that's a different thing. But if you feel like Miracles is medium and you're like, I'll just play this different deck instead, I don't recommend that. Alright. So the first thing I want to point out is that the name of this event is Buffalo Chicken Dip. David Lance? Is that Static Gripped? Is that one of our D&T people? Traitor. Alright. So this list looks solid. I like the 2 Mirren Crusaders that are here. And the sideboard has a lot of one-ofs, but it actually looks surprisingly solid. I don't like this as much as some of the other builds, but this was cool. Oh, morning, Echo. Alright, so let's download this deck list here and start editing this. So let's export that for Magic Online. And let's just delete this one that I called GP. No, download. Alright, so GP, D&T, V1. Okay, Magic Online. How did we import 64 cards out of this? No? Show in folder. Oh, I downloaded a Magic Workstation deck the second time. Alright, well. The first time I did export as Magic Online. Do you not like that I have the word sideboard written in the middle of that? Alright. Is that the problem? Oh, well, you found some other problem because you viewed it as freeform. Well, that's closer. You know, I really try to have Magic Online's back sometimes, but then it does stuff like this, and it's just so disappointing. Alright. So 24 lands, that part's done. We have our normal spells. Okay, you didn't import Swords to Plowshares, which for some reason Moto hasn't imported properly for, like, the last month. I have no idea why. And then I'm missing 4 other cards, so some 4 of. I have Flicker Wisp, I have Stoneforge Mystic, I have Thalia, I have Ether Vial. Do I have Mirren Crusader? Yes. Do I have Brightling? Yes. Moms? Yes. Jailer? No. Revoker? Yes. Recruiter? No. Alright, there's 59, so then I'm missing a 1 of Sanctum Prelate, probably? Sanctum Prelate. Alright, sideboard's missing 3 cards. Cataclysm, Containment Priest, Council's Judgment. It looks like it's the cards from the side sets that are not getting imported, along with the random Swords to Plowshares. Okay. So now, where do I want to go from here? I don't really think Flagstones is worth it for just 2 Cataclysms in the board. I'll just play another Plains over that. I like the Tomics, I like the Crusaders. The question I have right now is, like, is the Brightling the best use of this slot? So Min wrote a great article talking about the decks that he expects for GP Atlanta. I thought. Yeah, here we go. So when Min was talking about the format, he was talking about Depths, Reanimator, Rug Delver, Bomberman, and Ant as being big decks to look at. So those are things that I'm going to keep in mind. So Depths, Reanimator, Rug, Bomberman, and Ant. And I'm pretty much in agreement that those are probably our decks to watch. There's a nod to a few more decks at the end, with Stoneblade, Red Stompy, Blue-Red Delver, Sneak and Show, and 4-color Snow being other things that are probably going to have an impact. So, is this good against Ant? No. Is it good against Depths? No. Is it good against Reanimator? No. Is it good against Rug Delver? Yes. Is it good against Bomberman? No. If I play this, it may end up being a sideboard card. It may be that I want to start with a second Revoker here, and maybe move this to the board and only play 1 Sanctum Prelate to start with. Yeah, but let's play the same game with Brimaz, though. Is Brimaz good against Ant? Not really. Is Brimaz good against Depths? Not really. Reanimator? Not really. Rug? Yes. Bomberman? No. So it kind of falls into the same thing. Whereas if we play that game with Revoker, it's good against Ant, it's good against Depths, it's fine against Reanimator, it's bad against Rug, it's good against Bomberman. So I think hedging at least some of our cards in this direction is probably a good idea. Alright, so how's this for a Graveyard Hate package? / like, do I actually want this Containment Priest for any reason? Containment Priest is like basically a card that's for Reanimator and Dredge and decks of that nature, but it's actually pretty slow. The upside is that it's tutorable. But if I get to the point where I can go into play something that's tutorable, it might as well just be like the Sanctum Prelate. So I'm not actually sure that I want to run this card. I'm also not sure about this. So there was a Revoker in the sideboard initially of this deck list. So that kind of makes me feel good about that choice. I do wonder if that should just be another pithing needle. So like, I wonder if the Revoker should just be another needle to make us better equipped for like depths and to a lesser extent Reanimator. I'd also be willing to try out a Celestial Purge. Yeah, so of the things that are in the sideboard right now, I think these three are probably the weakest. Yeah, Chalice of the Void is the other thing I need to be thinking about here. I think the upside of Crusader in a lot of the matchups is going to be higher than the upside of Brimaz right now. The 4-color decks are shifting away from Lightning Bolts a little bit, and we're not seeing quite as much Dreadhorde Arcanist as we used to. Like, it's still around in the Delver decks, which is obnoxious. And, like, maybe that's a reason why I should have another, like, big butt like Brimaz. But, like, playing the Crusaders means that I have an absolute shit ton of humans for this one of Cavernous Souls to do work on, which I kind of like. So I guess, like, hypothetically, I could, like, cut those 3 cards. Play Chalice of the Void. Do I own a Celestial Purge? Don't own a Celestial Purge. I could try out a Celestial Purge. It may just be too cute. In, like, maybe I'm just supposed to, like, play more cheap interaction. Alright, well, apparently... Oh, I borrowed Modern D&T. That's why I have this art path. Okay, that's what's going on there. I think I'm going to start with 2 Chalice and go up to 3 if I want it. Like, I really liked 3 Chalice when I played it at GP Richmond and, like, in most of the year that followed. Well, maybe I'm wrong and maybe the 3rd Chalice is good. The 3rd Chalice is very, very good against Bomberman. Like, you're going to do so much work with the Chalice on 0 in that matchup. It's great against Ant. It's playable versus Reanimator or Depths, and it's good against, like, the control matchups when you do run into one. Yeah, I might backpedal on what I just said. Is Relic Order actually good in the metagame right now? That's another question. So, it'd be good against Bomberman for, like, Karn targets, like Ensnaring Bridge. I don't expect D&T to be particularly popular. So it'd be for, like, D&T, Red Prison, Bomberman. That might be enough. Yeah, maybe let's use this as a starting point for testing and kind of see how we feel about it. All right, so let's like name this one like GP. Yeah, sure. Like any fast, powerful linear combo deck is certainly going to be in the room, right? All right. And the next thing to do, and it's very important when you're going to play a lot of matches with a deck list, is you make sure your planes don't look like garbage. It's really tilting when you register planes that look like garbage. All right, that's way better. Now properties. Let's export that. All right, let's get this up on the cardboard live. Hey, I'm still going to respect Predict as a Magic card. And now the black deck update. I'll refresh my page now. Did we come through properly? Yes. All right. Then let's battle. We'll get all three of them Miracles players. All right, Legacy League, GP D&T V1, join, and battle. Yeah, it's just good deck building, right? It is not going to matter in 99% of the matches that you play, but in the 1% that it does, it is just like strictly better to have that split. And there's not really any real downside of doing it. I haven't seen anyone going deep enough to play anything like what is it? There's some card that like destroys target snowland or something like that. That's like terrible and overcosted. Yeah, I really like the lightning planes personally. That's my go-to one. This is the sort of hand where we would really like one of our two Ether Vials to get countered and like to get cards out of them. This is also a hand where we'd love to be playing against depths. Alright, so maybe Maverick. Well, we're just jamming that now. Alright, nice 3-3. So I maybe don't need another Mother of Runes immediately. I can probably take a turn here to go and just deploy another Ether Vial, just for like long-term mana flexibility. And I am, I think, going to Vial in my Tomic now. Because if I don't Vial it in now, there are worlds where in my end step, my opponent responds, or sorry, at their end step, my opponent responds by activating the Knight, fetching a Wasteland, and getting my Caracas. I don't think that's likely to happen. But it's something I want to, like, be aware of. A Tomic of your own, you say? Ho ho! Isn't that grand? I'm really glad that wasn't just, like, Gaia's Cradle into some nonsense that I can't possibly beat. Those are some big nights. Thalia not a super useful draw at this stage of the game. So let's bounce your Tomic. We'll equip my Tomic. I need to be aware that my opponent can get a Caracas to go and bounce my Tomic. I don't think it's an immediate issue, because it's something they could have, like, if they may not have Caracas main deck. I bet they do. Alright. That's another way to just handle that problem. So we'll get... That would have been a sick Flicker Wisp. Alright. So we're kind of on the wrong side of the life total pendulum here. Because my opponent is just going to be gaining the ability to just give these protection and crash in. So my opponent can activate the Knights twice, potentially growing the Knights by 4. So my opponent can crash in for 9, 18, 27 and have me dead in 3 shots. I can't get anywhere close to that. I'm just going to get clocked by these Knights. And Thalia is not a good tool. Yikes. If you don't have Chalices yet, feel free to just jam any other combo hate card in there, such as Aethersworn Canonist. I'm just going to attack with the Tomic. I could, like, give protection to the Stoneforge and have that hit in there, but I don't think that's going to be the most useful thing in the world for me. Yeah, I'm happy with the list I crafted up. Less happy with current board state. Ah. So, opponent, are you just going to make a 2020 boy? Yeah, you can't wasteland my Caracas, friend. You also can't make Merit Lodge. Tomic, though. Tomic doing some work. Holy shit, my opponent conceded this game? I did not think I could possibly win this game. I was just supposed to die 2 nights. Oh, God. So, like, my opponent also didn't have access to Caracas, right? Because they could have just, like, tap planes, activate Knight, get Caracas, bounce Tomic, wasteland that, make a 2020. Like, there were so many different ways I was beyond dead there. Wow, okay. So that was legit. So I'll probably play Council's Judgment, and I will play some number of Path, Needle, and Rest in Peace, depending on what I have to take out. Yeah, I mean, didn't expect Tomek to do much there. If my opponent is not playing Caracas in the board, I will be really surprised. I think that's something that should be in the main deck. Maybe they didn't see the line. I don't know, man. I don't know. All right. Thalia's out. Prelate out. The rest of the stuff that's here is pretty good. So we need to board in 5 cards. The Council's Judgment, that's the guaranteed one. And then from here, it's a little bit tricky. Rest in Peace shrinks the knights into range that are like totally reasonable. I didn't see red, so my opponent might not be on a Ren and 6 build. My opponent is on a Dark Depths build, which makes me think that I want these cards, and I'll leave the Rest in Pieces in the board. The Relic Order is also something that I can consider to just deal with opposing pieces of equipment and cards like Sylvan Library. I think I'm going to run it like this, but like all these cards here are worth consideration. Mirren Crusader is great in this matchup. Easy mulligan. Great card, but not that great. This is a keep. We'll send back this. It's just worse than Plains in this matchup. So now that I also know that my opponent has Elvish Reclaimer, I could consider Rest in Peace a little more highly. So I can just revoke this before they get to, like, cycle this Dryad Arbor away into something that's more impressive. And then I can play Stoneforge and Aether Vial next turn. I think I'm fine with that. I just don't really know that going and playing the Stoneforge this turn and, like, preemptively fetching up the Jitte or anything like that is really where I need to be. Yes, I will use Path to Exile's ability. Alright, so my opponent is leaving up the ability to go and fetch something with Elvish Reclaimer. So they are going to go and end of turn get a Thespian stage. So they turn one of these into Thespian stage. On their turn, they can activate, get Dark Depths, but not also produce the Merit Lodge, I don't think. So that's all fine. Let's just continue to play basics. So Merit Lodge being threatened is what is in my immediate future. I think I'm just going to hold my Jitte in hand so I don't expose it to, like, let's say, Night of Autumn, or Green Sun for Night of Autumn. Oh, okay. Just a fetch land. My opponent is not going turbo on the, like, I'm going to try to produce Merit Lodge hand and just, like, try to kill you. That may just mean they have, like, Knight of the Reliquary. and their plan is just aggro. Alright, so they're just getting another land drop out of that. Yeah, that's fine. Yes. Yes. This is not ideal for me. Am I willing to trade Stoneforge for Renegade Rallier plus a Jitte counter? It's probably fine. My opponent also just may have Swords to Plowshares for my Stoneforge. Okay. That's fine. It is not great for me. I also really don't know that that was worth 2 cards, though. Because truly, it might have just been better for my opponent to just, like, fetch, play another Elvish Reclaimer, let me get 2 Jitte counters, like, just have a second Elvish Reclaimer around, and then hardcast it on their turn. Alright, I need something off the top here. I'm kinda flooding. That counts. Oh, come on! Come on! How am I supposed to beat that? This was supposed to be so good. So I'll just hold this for a turn now. And I think the Stoneforge is crashing in this turn. Well, we're not beating that draw in a million years with this draw. That's just the way it is. That's fine. So my opponent's really heavy on this whole Force of Vigor plan. It probably makes my Pithing Needle worse. I know this still plays into Force of Vigor, but it probably does some damage while it's there. And I almost kind of want both of them, to be honest. Like, trim one of my Revokers for another Rest in Peace, because, like, they both make the Knights and the Elvish Reclaimers worse. Yeah. Let's run it like this. Yeah, but absolutely not beating double Force of Vigor on a Mold to 6. Nuh-uh. Nuh-uh. This hand is not necessarily optimal, but it has Aether Vial, which will let me keep up with their mana acceleration that they might have in something like Birds of Paradise or Green Sun. We'd really like to draw a Swords to Plowshares or a relevant 2-drop or a Mother of Runes or something. Even a Wasteland would be fine. Or a Port. We have a lot of draws that make this hand great. Hey, see, like, that's optimal. So we'll knock them off a mana, trade card for card, and get some more mana advantage here. Note that this does really suck if my opponent has Force of Vigor, and they just like nug 2 Aether Vials. Yikes. Alright. Well, this is one too many of these. But it is what it is. They did have Caracas. There's still the question of whether it was main deck or sideboard, but Tomic is fine. That's a very good question. Currently, the term I would use to describe myself is variable, where depending on what my opponent does on any given turn, it greatly impacts what I will be doing on my turn. I think my current plan is to just like set a trap for my opponent that involves like me Stoneforging, putting in Jitte, and holding up Flicker Wisp. Do I want to trade my Flicker Wisp for Tomic? I don't think so. Taking that too. At 1, 2, and 3 is fine. So for now, let's go always no, always no, always no. Alright, what do you got for me? Clearly you have something. Hey, friend, you really should have done that last turn. For exactly this reason. But thanks for playing. Lols if they flash in Containment Priest, though. Alright, my opponent is going to try to brute force Dark Depths me. We'll see how that works for them. Green Sun for X equals 3. That probably eats my Jitte. Nope. Okay. All in all, I'm a little confused. Path is a great draw. Yeah, Crusader is going to be a big boy. That is accurate. So, I'm equipping the Crusader, and then I'm attacking him with some number of creatures. It's possible that I should be attacking with the Flicker Wisp as well, just to like try to get them to trade the Tomic for it, while Caracas is tapped and it's less obnoxious. I'm just going to attack with the Crusader. Alright. So is my opponent just dead to this Crusader next turn if I give Crusader Pro White? I believe they are. I just pump it up to a 10-10 and that can just deal 20 on its own. I'll have to get Tomic out of the way with like Path, Council's Judgment, or give Protection. But yeah, I think I'm just going to pass the turn here. Okay, you produce a Merit Lodge. That's fine. So now we just need to get Tomic out of the way, and we win the game. This is protection from green and black. Something like a Maze of Ith can get us if my opponent is playing it. So I need to be cognizant of that. But I've seen a lot of people not playing Maze recently. Yeah, Reclaimer and Knight can both get step. Let's start by just trying to end the game. You know, I'm gonna be honest. I don't know that we deserved that one. Like, we played better than my opponent, but, like, I think my opponent had the tools available to them to play that one better than they did. Without knowing their deck list, I don't know what they did and did not have access to. But, like, game one, I should have just died to aggro Knights. And I just find it hard to believe that they had no way to interact with me at all. Like, I'm of the opinion that my opponent was newer to Maverick and that they were just going and trying, like, out the deck or something like that. Or, like, maybe specifically it's this weird build. Like, maybe they have different tools than what they're used to working with or something. Yeah, maybe it was tunnel vision. Yeah, maybe you're right. Alright. I'm going to be here still. I'm just going to keep talking. But I'm also going to try to hit this fly that's above my computer. Haha. I've been trying to get this one fly who has been hanging out in this room for like ever. And I finally got him. I mean, I say it's a one fly. It probably wasn't the one fly. Things have short lifespans. Just go around just like machine gunning salt at flies. Alright. I was going to start a spreadsheet up for this, but I forgot. Alright, so we were 2-1 versus green-white Maverick. We have an okay hand. I will be keeping this one. We're a little land heavy, but 3 of our lands are assorted utility lands. All right. Here we go. No, Echo, I know it is a cool thing. Oh, white faces. Hello, hello. I hope things are well. Opponent does not have another land. It means they don't have red for removal right now. I am just going to like jam a batter skull down their throat. So the kind of cool thing here is that if they brainstorm and then use their turn to like fetch, get red source, lightning bolt, Stoneforge Mystic, they've only dealt me 2 damage with their turn 1 threat thus far. Coinman, because splash builds play P and K, which is a human artificer. So if you name artificer over core, they're more likely to think that you have red. Like you're not probably playing another core, right? But you potentially play another artificer. Okay, so I was wrong about lightning bolt. I assumed this was going to be a blue-red list, but it's actually blue-white. So all I want to do is drag this game on. Because I feel if I drag this game on and I resolve my Sword of Fire and Ice and my Batter Skull, I'm in such fantastic shape. Just playing the Flicker Wisp onto the empty board right now is kind of awkward. It's possible that my best line this turn, oddly enough, is just like play Aether Vial and port them off one of their colors. I think I'm going to do that. So I think I'm going to play Aether Vial without playing out the next land, see if it gets countered. It does not. All right. Let's port. A secondary threat in this deck is somewhat likely to be white, such as a Stoneforge Mystic or something like that. So I think I'm going to go ahead and tap down the white. Punished. It's not really what I wanted to see. Yeah, alright. So there's the days we played around last turn by not flicker wisping. So there's at least some degree of validation there. Double port when facing down 2 creatures seems like a path that leads towards me dying. Alright, so I did have the read that there was a Stoneforge Mystic package in this deck, correct? I really need something this turn, though. Okay, perfect, 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 perfect. So now I can upkeep, double port, and hold up Swords to Plowshares on whichever creature they equip. The other thing I can do is just, like, ram the Batterskull onto the battlefield. But my opponent pitched a Daze last turn, which might just mean that they have another Daze. Or, alternatively, it can mean they're trying to give me disinformation and they do have another Daze. Regardless, I think I just want to, like, see what happens with the Delver and then double port them. Alright, the Delver does not flip. So then... No, I'm just going to go ahead and port again. Ooh, no attacks. Great. I will just use this opportunity to fire off a Swords to Plowshares on the Delver, because this represents a great opportunity to use a Daze and makes it more likely that my Batterskull is going to resolve. I guess technically I should have held up a white source. Yeah, we know that's happening. Go always no to that. Nice. We go 1, 2, 3, sword. Your opponent needs Force of Will for this. Nope. Yeah, that was the plan when I took this entire line in the first place. So now the question is, like, what do I do with this? Do I shoot the Delver and force them to move the Jitte counters? Or do I shoot the Niv Magus Elemental before it gets any bigger? It's kind of weird. Shooting the Delver... Well, there are worlds where I do care about the size of the Elemental, but all those worlds involve them drawing more lands and multiple spells. So I think I'm just going to shoot the Delver. And they can choose whether or not they want to save it. I think I'm fine with them saving it. Do I need another vial? Not really. And my opponent has just conceded there. This game could have potentially gotten quite interesting if they kept playing, but I can just see them feeling just absolutely outclassed there. So generally speaking, we're probably going to want to board in our 4 removal spells here, and that's probably going to be about it. Phyrexian Revoker, not exactly where we want to be against Delver. That'll be our starting point. I'll probably still, well, okay, so then these 4 are the pile of cards that I'm going to think about cutting. So, like, Jailer is slow, but could be uncounterable. I don't like Jailer against Young Pyromancer in particular. Well, okay, so my opponent's not traditional Delver. They also have, like, a Stoneforge package in there, so, like, maybe I do want to keep some Revokers. This is a little bit of a non-traditional matchup. I think I'm comfortable trimming one of those. I think I'm comfortable trimming this and this, and then that puts me at 61, which is sort of awkward, because, like, keeping the Revoker in is obviously much better if I keep both Recruiters. My opponent essentially lost that game by getting stuck on mana, which makes me hesitant to board out the Thalias. Their land count might be low. They might be trying to play a very cantrip-heavy version of the deck. Like, even more so than normal. I think I'm going to trim 1 Thalia when I'm on the draw, just so I can keep all 3 of these cards in. Otherwise, I'm cutting, like, a Mirran Crusader or something. And I think I'm just going to respect Mirran Crusader's ability to just clock my opponent out of the game. This is not acceptable versus a Delver deck on the draw. This hand is fine. My opponent has mulliganed to 5 as well. I will be junking my expensive card out of this. No, Tomic is fine, just as something that reads, I trade with Delver of Secrets. That's good enough. Man, my Vial resolved, and I have 4 1-drops and a Thalia? Pretty happy with what's going on here. Slightly less happy with what's going on. You have a Daze? You do have a Daze. And my opponent's really incentivized to crack EE right now. Otherwise, I may be able to cheat creatures. Hey, you think I should violate my Mother of Runes in response to them cracking EE? Yeah, so that's fine. Where is your EE now? There it is. Our old nemesis. True name, Nemesis. We'll be getting Sword of Fire and Ice here for the protection. We are relatively well insulated from a true name nemesis. The second one is a touch rough, and would really make me want to draw the other land this turn. Thank you. Okay. We may beat this. So I am hitting for 5 a turn. They are hitting for 6 a turn. They are getting the first hit. Alright. What if I just attack with Stoneforge instead? Okay. Yeah, drawing Council's Judgment would be cool. So I can attack with Mom and Stoneforge for 5, 6 damage. That puts them to 8. Then I can have 5, 8 next turn between Flicker Wisp and Mother of Runes. So I can actually win this race if Flicker Wisp resolves. Nice! My man. We'll get Jitte here, because it can allow us to gain some life as well. There's also worlds where I end up using a Swords to Plowshares on my own Flicker Wisp to gain life to survive. Holy crap, we did it. Man, beat double true name there. That feels pretty good. Alright. So that was a 2-0 versus blue-white Delver. Good stuff. I'll update that properly in a minute. I'm going to take 30 seconds and run to the restroom, then we'll go into the next 3 matches. Be right back. Well, we had Mom for a plow. Like, we had double Mom. Alright, let's jump back into it. In case you joined in recently, hi, my name is Phil Gallagher. I run ThrabenU, a site for legacy, death, and taxes, and that's what we're playing today. We are currently 2-0, having beaten Green-White Maverick, featuring the Dark Depth combo, as well as Blue-White Delver. Feel pretty good about the list so far, obviously. Tomic has been pulling its weight. It was very good against Maverick. And I feel like I've got a pretty good balance of tools. You know, we'll see how I feel when I get paired against some Ren and 6 deck or something like that, but the GOAT. Is he literally a GOAT? Or the greatest of all time? I don't know, Walter. Let's find out. So I'm keeping a hand that's fine in a fair matchup, but will be terrible against an unfair matchup. So if this gets bad lands and my opponent is just playing Black-Red Reanimator, I am a sad panda. He is the GOAT, the greatest GOAT of all time. I like where you're going with that. And thank you very much for your continued support. The support means a lot. Now that I'm like formally confirmed for going to Atlanta, I should be picking up with a lot more streams. I've kind of been on like 2 a week plus my set of YouTube matches as of right now. But one way or another, that's probably going to start picking up. All right, Force of Negation pitch to Force of Will there. So it looks like we're probably going to be playing against some fair deck. Yeah, So is my opponent just playing, like, Esper Stoneblade? Nope, Death Shadow? Okay. This is a stellar hand versus Death Shadow. Good lord. Like, about the only way to make it better is to draw my Cavern of Souls to make all 3 of these uncounterable. It's just weird seeing double Marsh Flats, you know? Because, like, the Polluted Delta is going to be their base land, fetch land of choice, because Marsh Flats doesn't fetch their island. But I guess, like, Marsh Flats fetches the swamp, so I guess it's whatever. Yeah, Force of Negation is such a nice complement to that deck. Like, they want as many free or cheap counterspells as they can get. Alright. You get to Thoughtseize me. Really? They're not on Basic Island anymore? Interesting. Opponent's probably looking at this hand going like, oh my god. See if they have like another one to follow up. A Gurmag Angler. Okay. So the Gurmag Angler makes me pretty obligated to play Mirran Crusader this turn. It'll just really suck if they have Daze. But I think I have to do it, otherwise, like, I just take too much damage this turn here if I just Flicker Wisp the Delver. So if I jam the Crusader and they have Daze, I'm going to take 8. And then I can Flicker Wisp the Delver, take 5, still be alive, then Flicker Wisp my Flicker Wisp to Flicker Wisp the Angler. So this is the highest upside play, but I don't think it's going to work. Oh, it worked. Huh. I mean, I really just did not expect that. So now we just need to like deal with the Delver via the Flicker Wisps, and this one's pretty locked up. Him to Turok taking both of my Flicker Wisps is sort of like the sort of thing that needs to happen for this one to slip away now. I also know they probably don't have any counter spells at this time. Or if they have the counter spell, it needs to be what they drew off of Street Wraith. We can go ahead and unflip that. And again, no reason to get cheeky here and like, oh, I'm gonna attack him with Crusader and then like Flicker Wisp my Crusader. If we do that and the Flicker Wisp does actually get countered because they drew a counterspell that turn, it results in me either like taking 8 damage and being very close to dead, or alternatively, sorry, I forgot what the other half of that thing I was gonna say is. It's risky when I've probably got this game locked up. I may choose to become the aggressor on my turn, though. We'll see if my opponent does anything. A Death Shadow. Alright, they have a 2/2. It's not one that's particularly scary. Alright, so now I can generate a whole bunch of bodies. So the question becomes, what do I want to do that? No, I'm not 100% set on Mom over Giver, but I think Mom is a better card in a vacuum. So I have my opponent on a 2-turn clock, in all likelihood, if I attack with Crusader and Flicker Wisp, because they either throw away their Delver or take 7, and then the Mirror Crusader kills them. If they chump block the Delver, then if they chump block with the Delver and take 4, then I have 4. Then they're at 7, and I already have 7 on board, so they're dead the next turn. Yeah. I think I'm going to be safe attacking with 2 creatures. So it seems like they're going for a line where they just try to kill me this turn. Ooh, a Dismember. That's very good. That may end up swinging the game a little bit. And Fatal Push the Flicker Wisp, sure. Alright, you go to 4. Sure. Flicker Wisp. which can't be countered. I'll blink my Crusader. And my opponent sees the writing on the wall. Alright, so what do I want against Death Shadow? Probably just about 4 pieces of removal. I'll probably play my Paths and Council's Judgments. I'm not super familiar with current Death Shadow deck lists. I don't know if they're currently on the like Dread of Night plan that they used to be on, where like all your X1s were super bad. I'm gonna assume that we've like shifted away from that a little bit, and my opponent is probably playing a more reasonable spread of stuff. I'm probably not going to play my Phyrexian Revokers. When they were on the Dread of Night stuff, I usually ended up trimming some number of Mom's Thalias and Flicker Wisps. Here it's going to be a little bit harder. I could maybe see myself trimming a piece of equipment to keep most of my good stuff in the deck, because I'm going to want to fetch one of these first in order to help me stabilize in most cases. This helps against True Name, though, so maybe that's not true. Well, I'm glad to be helpful. I think I'm going to trim one Flicker Wisp when I'm on the draw. And I think I'm going to start by trimming this, and if I see a bunch of True Names, I'm going to bring this back in. I think my other pieces of equipment are just more valuable. Yeah, we had an early dismissal at school, and I still had to work for a bit afterwards. We had a professional development day. Keep. But I still got off early enough that I figured I'd try to fit in most, if not all, of a stream before dinner. So we're on a double Caracas opener, which I don't like, and which is why I usually only play 2. But like right now, it's just so important to have access to Caracas for all the merit lodges that are running around. I assume Stoneforge Mystic is the thing that's like getting the axe here. Fuck. There's your clippable moment for why you don't play 3 Caracas. So my opponent is just like offering up that Delver to the Path to Exile. Does that mean they have a Daze? It may just mean they have a better threat for later. I'm going to go ahead and try to Path to Exile that. Okay, they do. But like the rest of my game was going to play out so much better if they did not have that. So now we're going to play Awkward Lotus Petal and play Tomic. Yeah, I have long been a hater of 3 Caracas. Like it's well over a year at this point. Probably 2. I think the upside of having it in the deck is lower on average than the downside of having it. It's just that, like, right now, there's so many merit lodges because, like, there's the green-black deck, there's the Maverick decks that are jamming it in there, and there's even people who are, like, memeing and throwing it into, like, elves or something like that. And the green-white depths deck, not Maverick, but just straight green-white depths deck as well. Well, my opponent's done most of the work as far as, like, life total goes. I hate 3 Caracas, but I'm begrudgingly playing the 3rd right now, because 2020 Tentacle Man. Okay. So am I just racing my opponent? Is that what's happening here? I whack my opponent to 5, I play Stoneforge, I don't wasteland, then I kill my opponent? Because it sure seems like that's what's happening. And just hope that they can't interact with me. So I'll take 8, potentially 11, and would probably be dead to a removal spell or a discard spell. Sure did board out the Sword of Fire and Ice. Alright, so does that mean I am just getting Batterskull? The Batterskull next turn can chump Death Shadow, and then I can try to equip a Totemic or Stoneforge. I think that's what I'm going for. So now that I am going to take a hit from the Death Shadow, I'm going to hold back my Tomic. And I did already play a land. Oh god, flip to Dismember. That is a disaster. So if my opponent dismembers, they go to 3 life. I get hit for 13. Going down to 6. Yeah, you totally attack him with both of those there. No, but I think they want to pay more life. So I think I need to trade with the Delver, force them to dismember the Stoneforge, draw something that answers or stalls the Death Shadow, and then try to resolve Batterskull. Hey, Eddie, welcome. Hope things are going well. Alright, so they are only willing to take a little bit. I think it's better to go to 3. Because then I'm just, like, potentially dead on board to the Death Shadow. Right? Because I would have taken 2 more, I would have been at 9. The Death Shadow would have been a 10-10, so it would have been lethal the next turn. Can we ride on our enemies? How would you feel about getting on a looter scooter and looting away these extra copies of Caracas because they're fucking garbage? Would that be good? Alright, opponent, do you have fetch land? Plus another watery grave? And so it doesn't matter all those things that I talked about? You sure do. Alright. So fine with the Revoker sitting in the board, fine with one Flickerwisp being in the board. The Sword of Fire and Ice was something we kind of wanted, but it didn't end up being super relevant. Maybe I do need to keep it in the deck in respect of just closing the game. Yeah, I'm super unsure about this last slot just because I haven't played this matchup recently with some of the changes that have been made to the deck. It used to be that I was boarding out a huge number of X1s because of Dread of Knights. And, like, maybe I should still be doing that. I think I'm just going to whack the submit button and leave that sword there. And is Gas. We're going to get an uncounterable turn 2 Stoneforge or Thalia, depending on which one's appropriate. I haven't played Humans in a little while. Post Atlanta, that might be something I should throw back into the rotation. But with the exception of donation deck lists, until Atlanta, it's probably going to be mono D&T. I do have a donation deck list for tomorrow morning. It's going to be a History of Benalia Stompy deck that I was paid to brew. Oh yeah, it's bribery. That is exactly what it is. We all know it. All right, so they were more scared of the Stoneforge Mystic than the Thalia. Daggers. Eddie, that was the first draft. I was starting with 4 histories, 4 Force of Virtues, and I trimmed it down a little bit. The deck list is going to be weird looking, though. I'm going to promise you that. Well, my Thalia not really doing the attacking so much anymore. So we may do this awkward game of staring at each other for a little while. Do I want to play the Thalia Caracas bounce game, or do I just want to port my opponent? I kind of just want to port my opponent, if I'm being completely honest. Can start playing the Thalia Caracas bounce game a little bit later. No even thought to casting a spell there. Yeah, go for it. Alright. We're going to be leaving this at 2, because we might need to play the Thalia Caracas bounce game. I would really love to wasteland my opponent, but I don't know that I have time. I think it's just going to be port my opponent, hope they don't have a removal spell, and like Thalia bounce until I can draw into something that beats this. Opponent's got to have something here, whether it's like a Fatal Push, a Thalia, or sorry, a Fatal Push, a Brainstorm, a Dismember. Yikes. Okay. So I could just, like, bounce this one, immediately put it back in, and then chump block with it, taking 8. Then have the ability to put, like, cast one uncounterably next turn. And still really need to draw something. Alright. So hold control. Activate this. Hold priority. Bounce my Thalia. Good habits. Thank you. I may need it, depending on where we're at in terms of the metagame. Okay, do I want to tick this up? I do not think I want to tick this up. Super rewarded. Holy crap. So I go, activate this. Yes. Put in Thalia. Wasteland. Wasteland, blow up a watery grave. Uncounterable Palace Jailer. And let's get one of those out of the way. Now we're going to get to draw an extra card, which will inform my decisions for the future. And now I get to chump block with Jailer, and then continue to play the Thalia bounce game, while drawing cards. And my opponent probably can't cast any spells. The other thing to keep in mind is that my opponent is at 5. So I can probably turn the corner on this game relatively quickly. It's just scariest if they can play a second 1-mana creature here. Well, that is devastating. Flicker Wisp, 1-time dealer? Yeah, gut shot would be pretty okay. I would accept gut shot. I don't have a walking ballista in this build, which would be my gut shot. Swords to plowshares also would be pretty great. Not game winning necessarily, but pretty great. So I think this is going to stay at 2. And we're just going to die. That's super unfortunate. That was a really interesting game. Great draw for my opponent there. They presumably had the reanimate, so it was the underground sea that they drew in order to cast that. Not even mad about that one. Yep, and like that's not something I'm going to play around, right? Like just because it is correct for me to not play around that specific string of cards, because the upside of being able to like Thalia, Caracas, Bounce, Cavernous Souls, Ether Vial shenanigans is so much higher than like my upside of keeping Palace Jailer around for if I draw exactly Flicker Wisp. It just so happens that that line was particularly devastating. Walter confirmed GOAT. Alright, we're going in for another round. Hand is pretty acceptable versus some sort of fair deck. We have a Caracas for if we're playing against a Merit Lodge deck. Opponent has mulliganed once. Opponent says they're a huge fan of the website. Good luck, have fun. And I told them they can check out the replay later. Alright. Mirror confirmed. Well, I mean, not like 100% confirmed or anything, but, you know, huge fan of the website, plus Planes Go, you know. It makes you think certain things. Alright, Stoneforge, Stoneforge. Opponent gets a Jete. I will respond with my own Stoneforge. Am I getting a Jete? So my opponent's likely to play some creature on this turn and then go for Jete equip on that creature the following turn. If I get Batterskull here, very bad if they play a Flyer or Crusader. It's good if they just play some generic ground-based creature. If I get my own Jete, I can try to leverage my Flicker Wisps and Palace Jailers and Palace Jailer to wiggle through. I think my next turn might just involve Flicker Wisping my Stoneforge anyway, so the decision might not matter that much. I'm going to go ahead and get a Batterskull and try to hold the ground. Okay, so my opponent is just has the mana to put in the Jitte. It doesn't look like they have the third land. That bodes well for me. So I will just pass with my mana available. All right, you have an equipment. What is it going to be? Oh my gosh, it is Umezawa's Jitte. That card's so good in the mirror. Yep. Now, do you have the Swords to Plowshares as well? That's the real question. Seems like that's a no. All right, are you going to get rid of my Batterskull Germ or my Stoneforge Mystic? You're just going to play a Giver of Runes. Well, all in all, pretty happy with how this has turned out for me. I am the pretty princess. So if my opponent uses their Jitte counters, I'm just going to get to Flicker Wisp Jailer, get rid of all their future creatures pretty easily, which is cool. Yeah, Renin 6 is a huge problem. So some people are playing Giver of Runes just because it has 2 toughness. Okay, so I can get up to 5 mana here. So that means I can Tomic and Flicker Wisp this turn. My opponent won't block if I attack, so my attacks are safe. The other thing I can do is just play Tomic, port them, and then, or sorry, no, I can just play Tomic, port them, and then bounce my Tomic with Caracas so they can't actually go and get more Jitte counters. That could potentially be the best use of my mana. Yeah, let's do that. Opponent says, glad to see you're back on track with D&T. I can also just do like a Stoneforge Mystic Batter Skull blocking dance as well. If I play Tomic and my opponent has exactly Caracas, it's sort of awkward for me. I could just play Tomic and not port initially. Yeah. Okay. So if I play Tomic and don't port initially, I can leave up a way to beat Caracas plus a second way to bounce and not give them Jitte counters. Yeah, so I think I'm fine with not porting. Tomic too strong. Yeah, Tomic randomly doing work on stream today. This has been a super interesting game of the mirror, by the way. All right. So you also have a Stoneforge, sure. That is a slight annoyance. Opponent gets a Batter Skull. Oh my god, they used a Jitte counter? That's so good for me. That's so good for me. Woo! And my opponent is done with me. So without the other Jitte counter here, we're going to get to Flicker Wisp away either their Prelate or their Jailer. And then, like, Flicker Wisp, Flicker Wisp, Flicker Wisp, do sweet things. Alright. So we'll probably play Pithing Needle, Relic Warder, Council's Judgment, and then consider paths to fill in extra slots. Now, Brightling is a great card. It's just a card that is very, very, very metagame-centric. So when, like, Miracles and Red Prison are both popular at the same time, like, get those bad boys in there. All right, so Thalia's and Sanctum Prelates are obviously going to get the cut, and then the question is, like, do I want another Path to Exile over anything else that's currently in the deck? Tomic did some work that game, so we may keep it in despite its legendary status, just like and it also just serves as an early flyer that can, like, connect with Jitte. I think I'm going to run it like this. One of the lists that I was looking at the beginning of stream when I was doing deck building had a one of Brightling in it. But if the decks that I'm expecting right now are like Ant, Depth, Reanimator, Rug, and Bomberman, I don't really know that that's where I want to be. My opponent is mulliganed. I'll be keeping this hand. We have a strong Aether Vial start. We have an answer to an opposing like Mother of Runes or early like Stoneforge Mystic, go for Jitte Equip sort of thing. We're going to hope that my opponent doesn't lead on Mom or Giver of Runes, because I'd love to play this Aether Vial on turn 1 and like use this mana advantage over time to catch up with my opponent being on the play. I just think Miracles is a medium quality deck right now. I don't think it's a bad deck. I just don't think it is like in the top 5 or even top maybe like 7, honestly, decks of the format right now. All right, opponent on a very heavy Aether Vial start after a mulligan. So we're going to kind of get to like steal the playback here, in that like we're going to be the one with the mana advantage here. We're going to threaten the Jitte first, but it's very likely that I'm going to end up putting in Batterskull next turn. All right, no Giver or Mother of Runes from my opponent. I just think too many decks are doing value-oriented things right now that are just too hard for Miracles to go and fight against. And my opponent gets and plays their own Jitte. So I'm going to get the same shenanigans as last game, where I am going to have the possibility of like Vial in Tomic and block. I'm going to have a lot of different ways to deal with whatever my opponent has going on over there. So I'm probably just going to play Caracas and pass the turn with the maximum number of tricks available and go from there. So that's going to happen. I think the way I like doing this is just Swords to Plowsharing this here. If they have a Flicker Wisp, they have a Flicker Wisp. Okay, they do. But this is setting me up for connecting with my own Jitte relatively well. Note that I could have Swords to Plowshared on my own turn, but doing so would have not eaten my opponent's mana up for turn, which I think is a pretty big deal. All right. So now I get my Jitte done. I activate this. Yes. Get Tomic. My opponent representing swords to plowshares there, which I think is a bluff. If I'm being completely honest. Ooh. I'm still going to go Jitte equip. But then what afterwards becomes a real question. I'm not going to do anything that requires white. So I'm going to use 2 of these now. And if my opponent points swords to plowshares at something, I think I do want it to be the Tomic, because I can just bounce it and save it for later. And then Flicker Wisp the Jitte on their turn. Okay. So like planned, we're just going to go ahead and bounce that back to hand. And then we'll get a Flicker Wisp during their attack phase. So I think I'm going to take that hit and then try to equip my own Flicker Wisp. Rather than trade for their Flicker Wisp. The Giver of Runes is a touch annoying. So always no to that. Another Flicker Wisp is absolutely insane. Alright, I don't really need to be porting them. That's not an action that I'm going to be taking. So let's try to equip my Flicker Wisp and get in there. And see what happens. Alright, we have successfully made the first connection with Jitte, which is huge. So I can just kill their Giver and try to dance around their Batterskull. Or I kill their Stoneforge so they can't put in the Batterskull. Then, when they attack in with their Flicker Wisp, I just flicker out their Jitte that they're going to equip. And then on my next turn, I take out the Giver of Runes and invalidate their Flicker Wisp attack with a Tomic bounce. It's a little risky, but I think I like it. The other thing is that, like, I just may have inevitability, and maybe I can just ignore the Batterskull since I'm the one who has Jitte counters right now. But the Batterskull getting the Jitte is something that is going to prove problematic. I guess also slightly problematic is if my opponent starts going on the defensive, but I don't think they're going to go on the defensive. You know what? Fuck it, I'm gonna get rid of the giver. I think there's just too many circumstances where things go bad. And I'm also gonna do it in the end step because I'm not an idiot. Now if they have a Flicker Wisp, it's a problem. Alright, so do you have a Revoker or something? What do you have? I mean, I accept it, whatever it is. Oh, it's just another Stoneforge Mystic. Yeah, that's fine. Oh, Sword of Fire and Ice. Okay. So super glad that I did not go for the Stoneforge killing because it would have been very punishing. Both to 3, you say? Interesting. All right. Yes, I will use Ether Vial's ability. I'll get a Flicker Wisp. I will flicker out your Jitte again. Do I want to trade? So I kind of want that flying body off the board. I think I am going to go ahead and trade here. I think the trade favors me. So my biggest worries now involve my opponent having Recruiter of the Guard and getting like Recruiter of the Guard, Flicker Wisp, super value. Safe line is attack with Flicker Wisp, play Vial and Tomic, hold up Tomic, bounce ability. Higher upside line involves putting Sword of Fire and Ice on Flicker Wisp this turn. Alternative line includes putting in my own Batterskull to combat their Batterskull. So I think I'm just going to take an attack. I expect my Jitte to get Flicker Wisped. No, okay. So that's cool. So then I think I'm just going to, like, set up Tomic Bounce. And just, like, work towards getting the Vial on 2 to keep that sustainable. Then on my next turn... Yeah. Yeah. Let's play another Vial. Set up Tomic Bounce. Oh man, you're right. Yeah, they just have 2 pieces of equipment in your hand, and I'm an idiot. I'm not wrong, am I? Like, I've been streaming and talking a lot. But why didn't they put something in with Stoneforge there? Maybe they just, like, F6'd and didn't mean to. Alright, my... I don't seem to have the skills to fight such an honorable champion. Good luck further. GG's. GG's, friends. Alright, so 2-0 versus D&T. That was a great example of, like, using your ability to wiggle through using the tools that you have accessible to you. So in game one there, my opponent was winning the Jitte War, but I correctly identified that I needed to like slow things down and leverage my Palace Jailer to get ahead. And that ultimately led me to a victory. In that game there, my opponent was like heavy on vials after a mulligan, so they had a slow start. And even though they got Jitte online, like they had the capacity to connect with Jitte first, I prevented them from doing that, and then kind of rode that to a victory. That game was far from over, but I think once I had the vial on 2 plus Caracas, life was going to be hard for them. We have kind of an average-looking hand. I'm going to keep it. Like, the Crusaders will be great in a fair fight. We have a Prelate for if we're playing against something unfair, and if we're playing against something fair, we also have, like, Mother of Runes as a starting card. My opponent is on combo. I have some degree of interaction. So it's not an exciting hand by any stretch of the imagination, but it's fine. Alright, most likely playing against Black-Red Reanimator, and our hand is not exactly fantastic against that. Is my opponent getting a pizza? Alright, so we are playing against Black-Red Reanimator. Oh, just a duress? Ha ha! Ha 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 ha! Fool! So duress may mean that we're actually playing against Tess rather than Reanimator. Either way, we are snapping off that wasteland so fast because it is actually a piece of disruption that is relevant. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Are we going to do it? Budza, good games. The match from my side was actually really interesting. Like, I'm probably sure you kind of felt the wiggling that I was doing. But I hope that's really fun to watch from the other side later. All right, so next turn we probably get the Lights Out card. What I want to do here is stop an initial mana source so that they can't start doing things. So I'm going to go ahead and name Lotus Petal with this. It's also a card that overlaps between Tess and Reanimator. Man, if you can get rich again overnight, it's impressive. My opponent may be considering whether or not they want to discard here and give more information about what deck they're actually on, or if they want to concede now. Because it is possible they are just playing a Black-Red Reanimator deck that has a like singleton duress in it. A Norwegian passport, you say? I only have an American passport. this like magic cards where I can trade them for ones that are more valuable. Yeah, and that's exactly what my opponent is doing. They're conceding to hide information. I'm going to board for Tess here, I think. So Chalice, good. Many of my other cards in the sideboard, garbage. Rest in Peace is just too slow. Surgical has minimal uses against Tess, but like technically can do some things. So I'll probably board it. And I might end up boarding in a Pithing Needle just because so much of my deck is going to be bad against Tess that just like playing this on a Bloodstained Mire may steal a game or something like that. Or a Scalding Tarn, alternatively. I think Rest in Peace is too slow. I think Relic Ward is probably too slow. But these are cards that I can consider if I just have so much garbage. So we start by cutting our Swords to Plowshares. We cut our Palace Jailer. We need to trim at least one piece of equipment. Some number of our generic beaters or flicker wisps aren't going to be great either. So if I don't board these cards, this is my deck. Then the question just becomes, like, are these cards better than things that have power and toughness? I think Relic Warder costing one less might be relevant. I'll probably just, like, play that over, I guess, a Crusader. Well, no, Mom's not good against Storm, but, like, things that cost 3 mana are worse, right? That's kind of how that goes. So I think I'm going to play the Cat over one of my 3-drops and call that good. The Mom's also really awkward with me boarding in Chalices, but, you know, here we are. So my opponent has mulliganed to 6. Is this good enough to keep? I have turn 1 disruption into turn 2 disruption, but both of those pieces of disruption are soft. Like, I don't love this hand. I think I'm going to ship this one and try to find something that's better. This is worse. We're going to pitch this one. Yikes. So what, this is my 5-card hand? My opponent has also mulliganed to 5, though. I guess a 5-card hand with a Lights Out card and a piece of mana disruption is fine. So I'm going to keep this one and junk my Flicker Wisps. I'll get that non-basic land. Get it. Yeah! I've heard good things about Norway. I don't see myself moving there or anything. Oh, baby. Oh, baby. Sick rips. Okay. So let's do that. And let's just play this out on 0 so that I do something disruptive this turn. Hoping that this buys me enough time to actually get to the Prelate. I just don't think that I can wait 2 turns for the Chalice of Void to come down on 1 if I'm wastelanding. I just think that's too risky. Obviously, this better is so much better on 1, but this is where I'm at. I still think Chalice on 1 is better against Tess. Like, if we're talking in a vacuum, not in this exact situation, right? And the other thing is that, like, if I put this on 0 and then this on 1, that's probably lights out as well. So now what I need to consider is there any world where playing Thalia is better than playing Prelate? If I play Thalia, I can follow up with Prelate on 2, which will probably eliminate most of the answers available to it. So I think it is actually better to just jam the Thalia here. And obviously no mom love tap here. Yeah, I mean this is exactly what we're looking for in a draw, right? Like our opponent stumbled and we bought enough time to actually get our hate online. No, I think I'm gonna put it on 2 and play around like Abrupt Decay and Echoing Truth. So that was a 2-0 versus Tess. All right, good stuff. Super happy with this deck list so far, by the way. I'm sure that's clear. Tomek did a lot of work on stream today, and in matches that you wouldn't necessarily expect, right? Like, it was very good in the Maverick matchup, just as and the Death and Taxes matchup, just as something that I could, like, block and bounce with. So I think I'll be keeping these in the deck. We didn't necessarily get the best show from Crusader or anything, but like there was a game versus Death Shadow where it was just holding the ground for us, and there was another match where we just like connected with Jitte twice with it and just absolutely won the game. Feeling great about my sideboard choices. The Pithing Needle maybe didn't get the best show today, and we didn't play against any decks where I really wanted Cataclysm. So I am of the opinion that we're probably shifting away from just like absolute Wrenn and 6 Plague Engineer dominance. I'm not playing against that every round in a row. And I think when you're not constantly playing against that, Mother of Runes is the better card. But that's kind of one of those things where you just like keep your pulse to the metagame and see how things are changing. And it may be that like Giver of Runes is going to be better for some events and Mom is better for others. But I'm going to stay on Mom unless I have a reason to change my mind. So I'd say of the cards in the sideboard, I'd say the ones in this far column are probably going to be locked for me for the event. Like, I'm just real happy with all of these. And Relic Warder is one I'm probably keeping. I'm probably keeping Chalice 3. And like there's a possibility that like these 5 cards will change, but I'm pretty set on this. All right, folks, I think that's all I've got for you today. I'm getting hungry. It seems like food time for me. So tomorrow morning, I'm going to go and stream some History of Benalia Stompy, which should be pretty interesting. I hope you all have enjoyed, and if you're really enjoying, consider doing something to support my content, whether that's following, subbing, or doing a donation deck list. And if you want to motivate me to write some articles or something like that, bribery of any nature is always appreciated. I'm going to go ahead and turn you over to my friend Julian, who I believe is playing some elves. Have a great rest of the night, everyone, and if you're playing F&M with Modern Stoneforge, I hope you enjoy.